Sorry. Okay. Started the meeting at 5:33. Stephen Dalmas, Frank McGinn, Phil Parker, and Anna Cook here. Okay. Yeah, no, last week, I fell and broke 3 ribs, so I've been
Oh,
recovering from
oh,
that. And
sorry.
I can't sit in a chair too long, but it's just getting better since I went off all the pain meds 2 weeks ago, which I was happy to get off because they weren't making you feel good. Did you all have a chance to look at the minutes?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they looked pretty nice, Frank.
Well, I'm enjoying using the AI feature on this. I can show you that someday how it works. It's really nice. The only thing is I'm labeled the town of Shutesbury, so it says the town said this.
Oh, right. I noticed that.
And I might have missed one or two things, but I said if it says town, it's because it's me, because they don't, it's their account, so I can't change the name. So, but it's pretty funny. But it's getting better. There's a lot of junk in there. So
Mhm.
a good copy and paste and then add and subtract, and it worked out well. So, okay, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Well, there are 2 minutes, and I guess the question is, Anna wasn't here for the last meeting.
Yeah,
So if she abstains,
no, that it doesn't matter. She can read the minutes and know what happened, and she can vote.
okay,
Right,
great.
that was going to be my question.
Yeah, that's what I believe what happens is, and when you can also go on the YouTube and watch it, but that has come up at several meetings.
Okay.
And the fact that you weren't there, you can still vote on what was said. At least
Okay.
that's what I was told. So
So the 2 dates, it was the 5th.
third of the March 5th and March 19th.
Okay, I make a motion to accept the minutes from March 5th and March 19th.
I second.
Okay. Roll call vote, Stephen,
Almas, aye.
Anna.
Oh, Cook, I, sorry.
Yep, Frank, I. Okay. Okay. The second thing I had on the agenda was to talk about the electrical panels. Um, and
About the electricals work.
electrical projects,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. We were just talking about panels.
Right.
Look at
Right.
those.
Which building are you referring to?
Many.
All of them.
Well, four of them, Phil. We town hall, highway department, fire department, and old town hall. And when I did the inspections, there were specific things related to each of the buildings that came up as items to, improve, correct. And so we're putting them all together, and then we want to be able to have an electrician or electricians bid on doing all that work at one time to economize, hopefully.
It brought back fond memories when I went out to town hall and opened the one panel that had the screw fuses, because I rented several houses in college that had those. And they always went with all the modern equipment you had in there. And we always would have to be in the dark in one area and have to wait for the next day because you'd never have enough of those.
Right.
So,
Well, if the fuse is the right size for the wires, fuses are actually safer than circuit breakers.
interesting.
And the reason is that, the fuse relies on a little piece of metal that if it overheats, it fails. So if the metal is, say, prematurely deteriorating slightly, it'll fail prematurely. Whereas circuit breakers, they can stick and then not trip at the rated load. They might trip, but maybe not until you get well over the rating. So, but people often put in the wrong size fuses, as there are at Town Hall and at Old Town Hall.
And hence why we're trying to update. So I don't think we have much to talk about costs because I know.
Well, let me
Go ahead.
just, so, I put together all the different items, and last week Jeff and I had met and walked through each building, and I took some notes, double checked some things, and I reworked them. So I think they're at a point where if we get an electrician, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to Mr. Balance
I did.
and
Um, he didn't answer the email, and I said, well, you're, and I talked to him the night of the meeting. And he's the Anna and Phil, he's the assistant electrical inspector in town. And I asked him about that, and he went around in circles. And I said, well, I'm running a business. I said, well, we can pay you if that's what it takes. It's like, in other words, it'd be nice if you can donate. He goes, if you send me pictures of everything, I tell you what to replace it with. But I think it's nicer to have, you're the inspector person, have a person on hand rather than look at a picture, because they can give you better ideas on how to fulfill that. So I said, we have some monies in the account. We can probably pay you for your services for that day too, if we vote on that.
I think it's better if he can walk through because one, he's going to see things as they really are. And
Right.
we may have some questions. And then he may see some things that he's doesn't have, the same concern about, or he may have more concern about. Um, for
How long did it take you to do the walkthrough?
Jeff and I,
Yeah,
I'll say a couple hours roughly.
2 to 3 hours. Because he hasn't. We talked at the voting informational meeting, and
Uh,
he said he'd get back to me so I could vote on it on today's thing, and I still haven't heard from him. So we might. I'll ask him again for I'll say a half day service, whatever it is, just to cover, and then if he's comes up with a price and agreeable thing, I'll just give him you all everyone's contact, and then we'll all try to meet on an agreeable time. And if we can do that, you won't be here for a while, so we'll be able to do that. So and I talked to Gabe and about the monies, and she says how it works, because I don't know how this works in the past, but the electrician who we hire just sends a bill addressed to the town of Shutesbury buildings committee, but sends it to town hall. And she said on their town, and they don't know if they do it here, the chair has to come in and sign the bill saying, yeah, this is what we agreed upon. And then it goes through the payment system. So,
I never had to sign anything,
okay.
but I don't.
Okay, that's good. This is what Gabe said. What he says. He said this is what they normally do. So things were done a lot differently in the past, I guess.
Who's Gabe?
Gabe is our interim town administrator.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, I
Becky,
mean, normally you'd want to have somebody who has, you know, knowledge of what the person was supposed to do, and if they did it, they completed all the tasks that they're billing for to sign off on the bill. So I would think that somebody from this committee should sign off on it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think after whatever work is done, we would go through and inspect it.
Exactly. Looks like you and Jeff did a wonderful job with nails and gutters, and well, I took some pictures of gutters on the last big projects, but yeah. So do I have a motion to um, hire an electrician for half a day to do a site visit? I'm going to call it a site visit, so it's not a meeting.
I make a motion that we hire an electrician for up to a half a day to walk through and discuss the scope of electrical work at Town Hall, the Highway Department, the Fire Department, and Old Town Hall.
I second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Stephen,
Elmas, aye.
Cook,
Cook eye.
Frank McGinn, aye. Okay, thank you for that.
And do we need bids for all this kind of work, or just it's okay to just go ahead with something like this with just one person?
Well,
And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
This is good. This is not, little stuff, no. Big stuff, yes. And
All
the
right.
general rule of thumb is if you ever question it, they ask you to call in 3 bids. It doesn't mean go with the highest or the lowest, because a lot of the times you might have, someone might be really low and then they'll say, yeah, and I can do it, sometime in November. Do you ever have that problem, Anna?
Yeah, yeah. Or the low bid is missing something, so we can
Right.
determine that it's not a good bid. And am I correct that we could call it in, but if we call five and we get two numbers, that still is checking that box,
Yes.
attempting
Right.
to get
Mhm.
competitive numbers. Yeah.
So Phil, what we want right now is an electrician to walk through and essentially confirm our thoughts and maybe help us better define the scope of work. And then we would get hopefully three different, including this electrician could be one, but then two estimates in addition for the actual project.
Mhm.
So this is really just for, I'll say, a consult and advice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because we're not electricians, even though Stephen's wonderful as what he did, his job, amazing what he did with his job in inspecting our buildings. We just want someone to say, this is the new code, or be a little more that. And also talking to Gabe about this, there's a list in town. We didn't get into it, but of approved contractors, which I didn't know.
Hmm.
And she said one of the approved electrical contractors is, and I'm not going to, Pacoric,
I think it's
Paciorek.
Pechoric, but
Thank you.
I could
Do
be
you
wrong.
know, you know that one?
Just by name, like
Okay.
the truck or van.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I said, well, I said in the future, I'll ask the new incoming town administrator for that list once she settles into her job so that we have it.
In the basement of Town Hall, where the majority of the electrical panels are, his sticker is on two of them.
Okay.
So he's obviously done work
Yeah.
at Town Hall.
Yeah.
If Josh does the walkthrough with us, does that doesn't prohibit him from providing a quote as one of the bidders? Is that
I asked, and we didn't know the answer to that.
okay?
Um, I will
And
ask.
would you think that would eliminate him, possibly?
I don't know. I mean, presumably everybody would have equal access to view the space. So
Yeah.
I would, I guess in the end, I don't think it would. It just seemed like a question. And it's a little chicken and egg, but I know we just voted to approve this, but I'm kind of thinking like, I don't know what his hourly rate is, but I don't know, 175 an hour or something, whatever we're gonna spend to do up to a half a day. Is that how much of that is like what percentage of that or is that of the total amount we're expecting to see the bids come in at? Like, are we going to spend a lot of money in the prep that could just be applied to like picking an electrician and going with them? But if we don't, I guess if we don't feel like we can put that scope of work together without his input, then that's just the cost of getting a proper scope together.
And having 4 buildings, I don't think this is. I mean, I don't know. You're more in tune, Anna, with contracting. To have four buildings being worked on, that's not,
Yeah.
several days of work, but we're probably
Mhm.
talking, thousands of dollars. So if it was $2,000, I would say yes, but I think it's going to be more than that just because it's.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of answering my own question while working out the question.
And the other thing is, we have to, in getting this together, and this is what I'm just thinking up because of my old job, my boss never let me turn the computers off during working hours. And so I actually worked one 4th of July, the first and last person ever to work a 4th of July for that company. And what is doing some of this work? What is it going to, what is it going to shut down, and for how long at town hall?
Uh-huh.
So we'd have to, and we might find out that, if it's something major and it'll be 4 hours, we might say, well, what about a Saturday? Because I don't care,
Mhm.
that type of thing, we might have to pay for that. So that's my only thought. I don't want to
Yeah.
get into this and then the electrician starts and, the tax bills are due or something and no one,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, but it's a good point because if there's some limitations we want to put on like how long power can be off at certain buildings or at certain times of year, I think
Mhm.
that is relevant in the bid docs. I mean, I lost a bid once where they had really unrealistic hours for days to completion, and I questioned it to say like the only way we'd be able to meet this completion date is with overtime. Like, is that what you're expecting people to factor in? So then we didn't get it, and then the contractor that did just took too much longer to get it done, and I was like, okay, well, I could have done that too at a cheaper price, but okay. So, but either way, if we have limitations like power can't be off for more than a certain amount of time, or we need Saturday work, that does factor into numbers. So if we want to have apples to apples numbers, we should definitely specify that.
Mhm. Okay.
Couple thoughts. One, if this is it Balance Electric? Is that his company?
Mhm.
If he does the this walkthrough with us, should we ask him if he then gets the job? Um, would he what charge like balance out somewhat the cost of this initial visit? Um, would we get some consideration? Or the fact that he's walked through, he might be able to provide a better estimate. Um,
Well, I think the important thing is getting the scope of work is, because I'm not, I can do really well with sheetrock and things I grew up with, the business I was in for all those years, but I've done, I rewired a house I got in Providence, Rhode Island, but I had someone helping me and I wouldn't know what, that was 20 years ago. So I wouldn't know what things have changed now. So,
I think it's a good idea to have a scope of work and have somebody come in and look at everything and just give a plan of attack, because that'll, if nothing else, it'll give us an idea of what we're facing, and a ballpark of how long it's going to take and how much money it's going to cost.
okay.
Yeah, and there are a couple of things that will be a little more involved. Is if we replace the fuse panel that's in the hall at town hall, and the circuit breaker panel that's in the meeting room, you're not going to get a panel that's the exact same size, and all the circuits that come in terminate there. So how will that be done? In other words, will they enlarge the opening so they can get the existing wires into a new panel, or are they going to have to surface mount it? And so I think that's information that hopefully when we do the walkthrough, uh, that can be talked about, and then we can then put in the scope of work, what we're expecting based on the information. Um, I can send you, maybe I'll send everybody what I've put together. And none of this has anything to do with like following the codes or, workmanlike. It's more the items of concern. And we can also ask the electrician how specific we should be in our uh, documents about things like must be done according to current codes, and follow this. And the thing about work hours, I think that's really good, because obviously you'll have to turn the power off to the individual sub panels as they're worked on, but the building won't have to be shut off. But certain areas will be without power while that's being worked on.
And I agree because we also have the police department. So there's some security or
Yeah.
whatever that is, things that we have to also think.
Yeah, and I don't know in the fuse panel how well marked the circuits are, but one of the things we may do is while people are in the building, especially in the police department, turn off those to see what goes down. So we know what's going to be off.
That's one way to do it.
Oh,
Well, if they aren't marked, I don't know that there's, an easy way to figure it out.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. New business. There's a few things I'd like to go over with. One is my idea, and I'd like to get a motion and vote on it, is to put the spreadsheet as a PDF uh, on our website, the buildings committee's website, so the town can see it. And I'm trying to get someone to do a drone that fell through. I have to ask, I haven't seen Jennifer. Her husband was going to go back and do it when the colors were better. If not, I have a friend who will be around mid-April who has a drone, and I can do it myself. But we'd like a drone of the school. But what are your thoughts of putting the spreadsheet on the website so people could open a PDF and just look at what things we're doing?
So it's a PDF, so nobody can make changes to it or yeah,
And actually click on they can click on the pictures.
I think it's a good idea. I think, the more transparent we can be, I think there are not many people who look at it, but the people who want to look at it, I think it'll really be very helpful.
And Stephen, do you feel good with that?
Um, I'm not sure. I mean, I think I'd have to mull that over a little bit. I'd also think it's something that we ought to hear what Jeff has to say as well,
Okay.
before we
That's
have
good.
a motion. Part of me says, being transparent is good. But part of me says, there's certain individuals in town that seem to look for things that they can make mountains out of. And there might be information that sets them off. And, if they look at it,
Oh, like the mold in the dam house.
exactly. Well, very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, I agree. So yeah, let's have a talk and a further talk with that. And I'll shelf that right now. Um, the other thing I'd like to do is I was going to send off Stephen, you and I can talk later sometime to make sure that I'll go through, make sure the pictures are working on my computer, because I know we've had problems with this in the past.
Right.
And you want to send me a list you told me which were, and it'll be before and after uh, with the elevator and the roof. But when I was going to send this off to the committees, and it's a good time to do it, I want to CC everyone's name. So all I'm doing is I'm sending it to the select board, and then it automatically goes to those people, the finance.org, whatever it is, and that spreads off to the other people. And then I send it to collector at Shutesbury for the capital planning. But I thought I know we're all in our names are on the letter that will be part of the body of the email. But does anyone mind having their town email as a CC when I send it all out?
What does that mean?
Oh, in other words, when you get an email, sometimes you'll see you copied, you'll get a copy of what I send to the
I mean, we will.
yeah, you will, yeah. But it also shows if there's any questions back, these committees have the email, which is they can probably get it anyway. They'll have your email that they might ask questions in the future. I don't know if that's what people want.
Are you saying if someone asks a question, we all get the question?
So that's the only problem is if you reply to all, yes. So if you
Oh,
if there's someone, we send this out and someone replies all, uh, that missing brick on the chimney, is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing if we all get it. I mean, with the library building committee, the way the email chain is set up is if someone responds to Elaine Paleo, who is our chair, about something related to the committee. We all see that. Not that we have to respond, but we know that someone's asking about whatever they're asking about.
Okay.
And I think in a lot of cases that might be good, because if one of us has some input that we can make relative to that, we could let you know.
Mhm. Okay. And speaking of that, because of that building committee, we'll try this on the next meeting. I'll put it on the schedule. If you all want, when someone sends, we don't get anything going to the buildings committee, but let's say we get a bid and it goes to the buildings dot at shutesbury.org. I have that automatically forward to my Frank Shutesbury Gmail account. If you would all like those things, that's how Elaine set up the library buildings committee that you all accepted, and then whatever goes into the buildings at shutesbury.org automatically gets forwarded. Um, we can talk about that at another meeting and work with that. So, the other thing, I sent you all, I don't know if you opened up the fire system.
Yes.
So Phil, some background. I've got talking with Gabe, and this is because I had to go in when I got that. I talked with Gabe about this and trying to figure out what happened. And they have to have the elevator inspected every year and the fire system inspected every year. And two different people were doing two different things. Lenny would come in and do the fire inspection, and the elevator people did something else. And we have an older system. I'll use the wrong, it's not an analog and digital or something like that, but they don't play nice together. And
Mhm.
they asked to upgrade it because that's why the elevator's been shut down. And the inspector said they will not pass next year if it's the same system. They'll just outright fail. So that scared Gabe. Then she got the quote, which I sent on to you all, $8,000. And then I also found out that 2 years ago when this started, they gave a quote to Becky for $5,000 and nothing was done with it. And now it's eight.
Um, is this just to upgrade what's currently there?
Yes.
Because, there's no system components in the rest of the building.
So yeah, this is why, so then I went and talked to Ellen, capital planning, and they're going to they're going to try to rush this one through and put it on the warrant, and if it passes, we'll at least have the $8,000. And we don't have to use it. And I also said, well, this is great, but just because I've been in the business and Anna too, we'd like three bids. We don't want someone to dictate saying, I'll come in and inspect this next year, but here's, this is what you have to pay me. And it maybe 8,000 is right on, spot on. But if I had known at that, I would have asked at the same time, and this is where the new town administrator, when these things come up, will inform us, and then we can all get together in power. Because you're right, Stephen. Smoke detectors and a few other things that aren't, we talked about that, is he just replacing a system or should we add on to a system?
Right. I mean, in my mind, Jeff and I talked about this a little bit when we were up at town hall.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think we want the system to cover the building, not just the back little addition.
Mhm.
And it would seem if it's going to be replaced, now would be the time to upgrade it. Certainly, the putting more components on the upper level shouldn't be that difficult because you can go up in the attic and, drop wires down through the ceilings. But I think we'd want to get, I think based on what you said, minimally, we'd want to get other estimates to see if, they aren't just jerking us around a little because it's a priority. I mean, you said it was 5, now it's 8.
Yeah, it was 5 and change 2 years ago when they bid, and now it's 8 and change.
Do you know
So,
do we have the $5,000 quote? I'm curious if the scope is exactly the same, just
well,
like
that's the problem.
code changes and whatnot.
I can ask Gabe to look for it, but the
Yeah.
record keeping,
Yeah.
whether she,
If it exists, it might be very hard to find, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got you.
so. And the
Yeah.
thing is, I can ask, and the thing is, you can ask the company for it, but it was 2 years
Sure.
ago. I'm not giving you an old quote, I've already quoted this job, and it could be just something.
Right.
So Jeff is not here, and I know you're involved, Stephen, in the library. Do you know what company is putting the fire suppression in the new library?
No.
Okay. That's a question. You
Jeff,
know,
Jeff would have probably have access to that.
okay. And Anna, do you have any companies you work with?
Um, yeah, I've worked with fire service group, and I was just
Yeah, if
sorry, I
you,
was just rereading this thing just to kind of get a
yeah,
handle on all these parts. Because is this the fire alarms? And I'm sorry if I missed this, but is this for just in the elevator, like shaft area, or is this the whole building because it all needs to be tied together?
this
It's
is,
just in the elevator area. The back addition, which was put on for the
Yeah.
elevator, that's the
Okay.
only place where that exists.
Okay. Because I mean, there's 4 heat detectors, so where are those all going? If I would think maybe down in the pit and up at the top because heat rises, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe these are dumb questions, and it was just like a big enough quantity count. It was making me question what the area we were working in was.
so I think I didn't do it the other day. I should have printed it while I was there. Is I'll print everything up, and the box I know is downstairs. You see the box, the
Mhm.
panel, whatever you call that. It is downstairs, yeah. And then I'll go look around. I can't probably. I don't know. There's got to be something in the top of the elevator shaft.
Yeah, usually there's a heat detector at the top. But I mean, that's kind of like the end of my knowledge about that.
And I'll see if there's other heat detectors in that area, or maybe they put them in different rooms. Who knows? But yeah, so if you send me, if worked with someone, what was that company called?
It's Fire Service Group. I was just looking them up because I want to say there's I don't know, they're somewhere like not in the valley, but not right here. Let me see if I have them in my work contacts here, which I should.
And I think if I understood
Palmer.
correctly,
Yeah,
that we got approval, but I think we have another year to fix this.
sure. Yeah. So it's Fire Service Group, and that website is just fireservicegroup.com, and they're out of Palmer.
Okay. And and if we get the $8,000 through capital planning and it's voted at the May town meeting, I said, well, what happens if when we go to put it out to a bid, and we want to do more? So we'd have to have another special meeting or use up our own funds. So if we were going to double the size and we needed 16,000 to do the building, which is not true, right? I know that, but
Yeah.
make up the difference, we'd either do one of the special meetings, or
Another option would be next year when we go for our yearly request, we could say, well, we had this unexpected and we put out this. And so we'd like, instead of 40, we'd like 50 or whatever.
Sure. Hey, another question I would have on the fire equipment quote is it's not exactly itemized, but there's 2 line items in here that say off hours rate for fire alarm technician and technician 2.
Mhm.
So if if we had asked for a rush on the quote, if they thought it was a rush on the installation, maybe this incorporates some like OT or something, possibly.
Okay.
It's the last on the first page is the last two line items. They don't say like quantity of hours or a rate to verify
Right,
that.
there was, yeah, that's what nothing was, it was,
Yeah.
here's your quote.
Yeah. Yeah, but if this includes a bunch of OT and their rates some big number, maybe that would bring this down to something more in line with what we're hoping for, expecting, etc.
Mhm. And I'll ask Gabe tomorrow, if she's in tomorrow, if I'm right, if we're good for a year.
I don't know if anybody can answer this question, but so there are ceiling mounted sensors on, outside the lower level and the upper level where the elevator is. Are those heat sensors? Is that what they are? Do you know, Anna?
Of what's existing there, I don't know.
Yeah,
In my experience, I've done heat detectors at the inside at the top of the shaft. Um, and yeah, I guess I don't know if there's anything required like in the like vestibule area, like right outside or in the,
Well, there are, and
yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
enough about these systems to know if they're heat or are they smoke or are they
Mhm.
smoke heat.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I know in uh, residential buildings or that have been converted to apartments, this is years ago, you would have heat sensors, say in the boiler room. They weren't smoke detectors, they were heat sensors. Um, and so that's just my question. And I guess what's the prudent thing to have throughout the building? Heat or smoke? We want, like in the boiler room, do we want carbon monoxide detector?
Usually you don't want them really close to the unit because you'll have false alarms. But I mean, the residential code just requires a smoke CO, one per floor, and you need something at the top and bottom of stairs. Sometimes that one unit can do both, but then
You
you have
know,
to keep a distance off of certain
yeah.
things. Yeah.
So I'm familiar with Maryland code. So is there no requirement for in residential smoke detectors in bedrooms?
There is residential, yeah. I know the residential code, but wouldn't want to pretend to know how that translates to commercial, especially with respect to an elevator.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I
But yeah,
know
residential, I gotcha. The
we
rest,
had
I
a,
don't
a
know.
fire inspection when we purchased this
Yeah.
house. The previous owner had put in some battery operated, and we have hot wires.
Mm,
But then they're in every bedroom.
mhm.
There's one at the bottom of the staircase and one at the top of the staircase. I don't know why, when they wired this house. And there's one in the living room. So I've got smoke detectors
Oh,
8 feet apart.
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you need one, the code requires top and bottom of stairs and inside a bedroom and immediately outside a bedroom. But in some houses, you could have one at the top of the stairs that serves the stair and like bedrooms to either side. So, but if the hallway's more
We,
than,
we,
X feet
we have
long,
two,
yeah.
and it's interesting. I just was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that like a lot of like all there's a lot of locations, but a lot of times like one unit can, check a two or three or four boxes.
Okay. Pay the electrician, the fire system. The other thing, to help, to get back to what Stephen brought up at another meeting in talking to Gabe, and I'll bring it up tonight, is about LED grants. Stephen,
Right.
the town administrator gets about 60 emails a day,
Gosh.
and 25 plus, or maybe half sometimes, are related to grants. And so uh, she has seen some lighting grants pop up, and it's something we have to send a letter. We'll work on that, send a letter asking the new town administrator, and she was hired specifically, not specifically, I was on the search committee, but she has really, really good grant writing because she did a lot of, she took a step down in pay from Amherst Senior, running the senior center, because she just got her master's in municipal government, and this is what she really wants to do. But she used to get a lot of grants, and she goes, I get a lot of grants for the seniors. He goes, some of them are just 10,000 grants, 3,000, 2,000, but you get used to writing and you learn and stuff like that. So we're very pleased to hear that because um, there's a lot of grants out there that we can still tap into. So
Great.
we'll, it won't be right away, I know, but at least it's it's in the system. So okay. Look through. Okay, that's what I had for today. I sent you all, I don't know if you want to do this with Jeff too. I took and just copied and paste the priority list.
Oh, yeah, that was
What's
good.
left over?
Yeah.
Um, in my old accounting days, I would have actually set up a new spreadsheet that had links to the other spreadsheet. So every time something changed, it would delete that line. But I didn't have the time to spend on that. But uh, with this meeting, we wait for the next meeting with Jeff. You know, the electrical is what we're doing now, and then we can start looking at some of these other things. And to make a list of where we want to be for the next so many months or year. What we feel on this high priority list really should be addressed. Any thoughts on that?
Um, well, I know one of the things that we've talked about is we already talked about the chain link fence at the fire department,
Mhm.
which would be something that, we'll get bids on. Um, I think that the fencing at Old Town Hall, not Old Town Hall, at Town Hall,
Yes.
is something that we can do ourselves.
Mhm.
And Russ Wilson is game for more projects. And some of my thoughts about how we can do that would possibly involve some help from the highway department. Um, and when we get to that, I can explain my ideas further. But yeah, I think going over things, you know, and deciding, say, what we can do and what we need to get contractors to do.
Mhm.
um, is the way to go.
So what I can do is I'll change you all to commenters. Therefore, you can leave a comment, but it's not considered editing in the quorum, I believe. So you can tag something to the right if you want to add um, uh, higher priority or
Uh-huh.
something like that, or we can do, volunteer help, highway department help and stuff like that. And you can work off that shared document so that everyone can see as a commentator. And I forgot to, when I sent that to you, Ann, I forgot to add your other account because I know you have.
Oh, I know. I don't know what, I
I
don't know how
think
to fix that.
if you have your primary business account on your phone and you get something
Yeah,
forwarded to that,
I
that's what
do.
it's doing. So yeah, if you have anything, if it gets forwarded, it's a corrupt line. But I always add you now as
Okay.
your ass, your other email, so we can look at that. Our next meeting is the only thing I have left. If anyone else have any new business?
No,
No. Um, I know Anna would like to go back to monthly.
Ah,
My suggestion, because, I'm going to be leaving for 3.5 weeks on the 25th.
Yep.
So if we could meet either the 16th or the 23rd before I'm off.
Can you do that, Anna?
yeah.
Okay, so it's 3 weeks off, and we'll do that the 23rd. That's great. And then Stephen's going on a train ride across the country in Canada.
Cool.
Yeah, hopefully the Canadians will allow us in.
Put in a good word for me. Keep my options open here.
I feel bad for you, Anna, because I know what's happened the last time all this went up. My brother-in-law, who does large developments and signs contracts for big houses and little houses, he couldn't do anything about, it's not in the contract to say all of a sudden there's a tariff on wood.
Yeah.
And it's just like, sorry. And the last time this happened, with 45, he ate some serious money on some houses and there was nothing he could do.
Yeah. Yeah, we added a clause. We had the same issue. We always have worked on a fixed price, and I've never had any like bail plan on that in our contract. But yeah, and kind of mid 2020, 2021, when things went really bananas, we aided on all the jobs that we had under contract. But we now have a clause about material volatility that we try not to use, but it's there for the like real oh shit moments.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that. Yeah, he had one of those big oh shit moments, and
Yeah. Yep. Oh, well,
it was a $4 million house, and he just said, I'm just going to go with it and not think about it anymore. Otherwise, I'm going to
yeah.
stroke out, and that's it.
Yep, I kind of thought about it too. It's just like, well, keeping the crew together. We're all working. Nice client. Client had suffered a catastrophic fire, so it was like couldn't be working for a nicer person to put him back in a home. We're just gonna. I didn't even tell the client about it. It just didn't matter, you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, bummer. Sorry to hear that though.
Yeah. So yeah, that was back in the same area, and so yeah, I mean, he has I'm sure he's recovered. And he probably did the same thing you did with his lawyers, but so. Okay, then we'll
All
meet
right.
On the
3 weeks.
23rd to send Stephen off on the train, and
Yeah,
then
have a great time.
Thank you.
Nice
okay,
to meet you, Phil.
Nice to meet
Okay.
you. Yep.
Do you need a motion?
Yep.
Move that we close the Shutesbury Buildings Committee meeting.
Second.
Dalmas, aye.
Cook eye, Frank eye.
Good eye.
Okay, see everyone in 3 weeks. See you.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Phil.
Bye, guys.
There we go. Stop recording.